Just about everything is ready for Balloonfest 86, set to take place in downtown Cleveland tomorrow to benefit the United Way. Literally millions of balloons will be released on Public Square, which will set a world record.
A city trying to shed its bad boy image with 1.5 million party balloons.
And the fan is up, and there they go.
Sounds whimsical, right? Well, for Cleveland in 1986, it turned into a disaster that would rewrite the Guinness Book of Records and forever stain their reputation for party planning. Desperate to erase its rough reputation, Cleveland launched a record-breaking balloon extravaganza. Suppose 1.5 million colorful dots blanketing the sky. A PR stunt so epic, Disneyland would weep. Months of planning culminated in September 1986, with a net the size of a city block ready to catch any rogue balloons. Because, you know, safety first. The concept for a record-breaking mass balloon release was really motivated by some friendly rivalry with Disneyland's first official park in Anaheim, California, which had previously established the world record in December 1985.
We are going for a Guinness Book of World Records. We can't get the white ones out of here.
The park in question had attempted to beat the record in December 1985 to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the park's opening in 1955, as well as the day that would have been Walt Disney's 84th birthday. Their classmates from Anaheim High School assisted in the process of filling 1 million balloons with helium inside large tents. These balloons were then released in large numbers from the parking lot during an event that was appropriately named Skyfest.
It's endless. It's absolutely astonishing to try and get something like this off, let alone waiting for good weather.
The event, organized by the United Way of Cleveland, aimed to set a world record for the largest simultaneous release of balloons. However, the outcome was far from the festive expectation to the unseen situation. All this was done as a charity fundraiser program. This event needed 6 months of preparation, including the installation of a net that was the size of a city block, to carry out their ambitious goal to launch approximately 1,500,000 balloons above the city. The balloons were filled by thousands of volunteers over several hours, and ultimately, on September the 27th, 1986, the day of the Balloon Festival came, during the time that these last preparations were being made in the downtown area of Cleveland. Meanwhile, on Lake Erie, while Cleveland prepped for its balloon bonanza, a storm brewed over Lake Erie. A day before the tragedy, Raymond Broderick and Bernard Sulzer, both fishermen, had been reported missing from Lake Erie for unknown reasons, their boat abandoned. A search and rescue mission was underway. But who knew 1 million balloons would become the ultimate party crashers? Literally. The weather gods, who were not thrilled by Cleveland's plan, made the decision to practically stop their parade from happening. With the balloons prepared and a throng of 100,000 people applauding, the organizers were faced with a difficult decision. Should we reschedule? Nah! In order to beat the record, they released the balloons early, which resulted in a stunning spectacle, but one that was not well timed. At around 1:50 p.m., the net was released, and the balloons quickly rose into the cloudy sky above them. The image was first mesmerizing, with a colorful assortment of balloons filling the air, which captured the admiration of those who were watching as well as those who were taking part in the event. Nevertheless, the weather circumstances rapidly deteriorated the position into a precarious one. As a result of the rain and severe winds brought on by the cold front that was coming, the balloons descended earlier than expected. Except the balloons didn't float serenely into the sunset. The wind shifted, sending the colorful armada plummeting back to Earth like a confetti explosion gone wrong. Chaos erupted. Burke Lakefront Airport became a landing strip for rogue balloons, shutting down all flights. Cars became entangled in the balloon blitz, forcing road closures and requiring a heroic bulldozer to clear the mess. The missing fishermen's search became a needle in a haystack situation, with the lake now a massive balloon soup, and it was determined that the delay in the search was a contributing factor in the failure to save their lives. Roads were blocked, traffic was backed up, and several complaints of property damage were received in the immediate aftermath of the event. In addition to this, some of the balloons traveled as far as Medina County, Ohio, where they landed on a meadow that was owned by a lady called Louise Nowakowski. This was one of the most peculiar consequences that occurred as a result of something that happened. Nowakowski owned several thoroughbred Arabian horses in this area. Horses that were grazing in a neighboring field were frightened by the falling balloons, which resulted in injuries and prompted the horse owner to file a lawsuit against the event organizers. It is a regrettable fact that the balloon bonanza made the city's daily life more difficult. could use a bread knife to cut through the irony because it was so thick after a whole 2 days. As a result of the decision to call off the search, the corpses of the fishermen were found on the beach. Balloonfest triumphed by being included in the Guinness Book of Records. Nevertheless, the category was terminated almost immediately, which was a fitting conclusion to a celebration that ran off the rails in the most disastrous manner conceivable. Cleveland historian, associate professor at Case Western Reserve University, and senior vice president of research at the Western Reserve Historical Society, said, "The mishaps surrounding the event didn't get as much play then as they do now." Says John Grabowski, "The tendency now is look at it as a disaster, but the balloon release did work." Neil Zurcher, a news reporter, said, "The volunteers were pouring in all night long, and by dawn, it looked like a helium mountain rising out of Public Square. The balloons, like a giant cloud, rose over the square, while others tumbled and danced against the building."
Just enough that the balloons are now trailing fast.
This is beautiful. The balloons are coming back this way.
The crowd loved it. The balloons themselves hadn't directly killed anyone, but as far as some were concerned, United Way now had blood on their hands. Among these people was Raymond's wife, Gail Broderick, who decided to take legal action against the charity's executives and filed a lawsuit for an eye-watering $3.2 million. Gail's lawsuit, just like the one filed by Louise Nowakowski, was eventually settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. Beyond the immediate state of chaos, the consequences of Balloonfest 86 reached far into the future. Court cases have been brought against the United Way of Cleveland, alleging that the organization was negligent and demanding compensation for the losses that were incurred. Additionally, the event had a tremendous effect on the environment, since the deflated balloons resulted in a considerable amount of pollution and constituted a threat to several species of animals. The event generated a wider discourse about the environmental repercussions of large balloon releases, which ultimately led to greater scrutiny and control in the years that followed. What was planned as a charity event turned into an unwanted disaster and a lesson for the whole world. If the officials had managed the proper weather report and checked everything, this could have them in the Guinness Book of World Records. The balloon disaster that occurred in Ohio in 1986 serves as a tragic reminder of the need to methodically plan large-scale public events, taking into consideration all possible dangers, particularly those that are provided by unexpected weather and environmental circumstances. With regard to the organization of events of this kind, it is essential to take into account both the long-term effects and the unforeseen repercussions, as shown by the sad results of Balloonfest in '86. We can learn from this case. Don't let your party plans turn into a million-piece environmental disaster. Always check the weather forecast. And maybe skip the giant balloon launch next time. Unless, of course, you're going for a worst party ever world record. What had begun as a fundraising event that was planned with the purest of intentions had quickly turned into a historic catastrophe that cost the lives, money, and ultimately, the reputation of all those involved in putting the stunt together. Besides the ensuing lawsuits, which were seeking millions, the event ended up at a total net loss due to alleged cost overruns during its organization. Balloons, which are supposed to make us happy, made a lot of people miserable at the 1986 Balloonfest in Cleveland. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing for more such content.